So you bought this game, you want to get good. You started playing and feel overwhelmed and end up hiding in the basement like a little. In this video I will give you some tips and tricks that I think will help you get better faster. Keep in mind that Dead by Daylight is quite unique in its game design and the learning curve is quite long. I've played this game since the beginning of 2017 and I still learn new things. Number 1. Understand the killer's power and how to counter it. I get it, this sounds simple, but since the game released in 2016, 29 killers have been added. They all have their own unique power that you have to learn about in order to be able to counter it. For example, learning how to spot stealth killers and how to kick babies in the face. Some things are more subtle and require a few hours of game time. For example, knowing where trappers commonly put their traps. Each killer presents a different challenge for you to work around. Some of these things cannot be learned by just reading the power. You have to play countless matches against a certain killer to really understand how they think and see patterns. That's why I also suggest that you play killer and not just survivor, as it will benefit you. Number 2. Learn about the perks. Since the game released, we have so many perks now that it can easily become overwhelming. As a new player you won't have access to many perks, but I suggest trying to unlock as many perks as possible and trying to find a build that you find fun. Notice that I said fun, not meta. There are so many different playstyles because of the amount of perks we have now. But you shouldn't just think about your own perks. Learning about the killer perks is an advantage to the survivors. If you can spot what perks the killer is using, you can find a way to counter their build. This is something that takes a while for a new player, especially since you're gonna be so focused on just surviving and learning how to hit skill checks because you're a Understanding what perk build the killer is using can be hard in some cases. You will start to see patterns. If you understand what the killer is going for, you can adapt to this and counter. And this will make you a much more effective survivor. The next one is gonna sound weird to new survivors. Number 3 is get chased. I remember when I started playing in 2017, I was so afraid that I played the game in a more
stealthy way,
hiding in the basement. Dead by Daylight is not meant to be played as a stealth game. Sure, it can save you sometimes, but you will get chased at some point, and that is inevitable. New players instantly panic when they get chased. The thing you need to understand here, the more you get chased, the better you will become at being chased. Don't be afraid of the killer. Learn how to drop that pallet in his face and hit a teabag while you're at it. Seriously, get chased and you will see improvements. Next one is kinda similar to the previous one. Number 4, don't be afraid of making gens. I see so many survivors dropping gens as soon as they hear the terror readers. In many cases, the killer isn't even coming for you. While you hid like a little you wasted 30 seconds of gen time when the killer was chasing someone else. If one person is always on the gen, the killer is gonna have a really hard time. Experienced survivors will drop the gen when the killer is really close or even take a hit to finish the gen. Number 5. How to save and help your teammates. When it comes to saving, it requires different approaches, depending on the situation. If your teammate is hanging on the hook and the killer is nearby, the smartest action is not to rush forward like a to save. Wait for the best moment. On the other hand, if you notice that your teammate is being tunneled, which means that the killer is going for them and them only, it can be nice of you to try and switch spots if that survivor is hooked and is on the second stage. However, this requires a team effort or a really sneaky save. Another smart strategy to help out your teammates if you are being saved is to take a hit for them immediately after being unhooked. This gives your teammates some extra time to get away. Usually the killer wants to switch targets after a save. Number 6. Don't always drop pallets. Common beginner mistake is to drop pallets as soon as you get to them. This is the wrong mindset to have because you should try to use as much time as you can on each loop to try to waste the killer's time. There are only a set amount of pallets every game, and after they are all used up, looping the killer becomes more difficult. If you can find a way to maximize your loops, the killer is gonna have a harder time. If you drop a pallet immediately, you could have wasted maybe 10 to 20 seconds worth of looping, maybe even more. Of course, there are situations when you need to drop a pallet as a last resort, but try to maximize the loops if you know that you can. Number 7. Learn about the different loops and buildings. There are many different buildings in Dead by Daylight, and having an understanding of these buildings will help you immensely. If you learn in what way you can cheese a building or a loop and how the killer will react to it, you can waste a significant amount of time from the killer. This requires map knowledge, because you need to know where certain loops and buildings are, since some loops can be kind of useless. Number 8. Learning how to look behind you as you run. This is a trick that will make you so much better as a survivor. You will be able to see exactly what the killer is doing as you are being chased. If you don't do this, you will often run into the killer or make any mistakes while you are trying to loop him. It can be quite tricky to learn at first, but it will become second nature as you progress. So the thing you need to do is, while you're running, drag your view back to the killer. At the same time, you are changing from W to S. Number 9. Don't choose self-care. If you do this, you are a